I've got the screen glare glasses going on, so fashion police, please don't crush me. But I do want to publish one more video tonight discussing 3 clubs that are also mid-table, although fans of one of these 3 clubs might argue that they won't be mid-table by the end of the season. But they all have something in common. The one thing they all have in common is that they have intriguing fantasy assets. And the other thing, I guess 2 things I have in common. The second thing is none of those intriguing fantasy assets are in my plans for game week 1. Maybe it's different for you. Love to hear and maybe even enter into a discussion over social media if you want to comment on this video. The first club is Wolves. It is intriguing to have a Connor Cody. He's one of those guys, kind of like I briefly referenced with West Ham and Aaron Cresswell earlier, where you kind of know where he's going to end up at the end of the season. It's not the worst thing, assuming that he's playing in Wolves' defense, which he probably will do unless he's not healthy. It's maybe not the worst thing to put him into a set-it-and-forget-it lineup. He's one of those annoying players who is in someone's lineup who quits a third of the way through the season, and they still outscore you when the cups roll around because they have Connor Cody in their defense amongst some other players. I could see that. Neto is a very famous. He's a very popular choice for Wolves right now. Partly price point, I'm sure, and partly because of preseason performance. Okay, I'll stick with I think he's 5.5, if I remember correctly. I don't have it up in front of me on my other screen here. I'm looking around my 2 screens. I don't have it over here. If that's true, I'm not intrigued. I'm okay with my 5.0 options that we've discussed in prior videos. Second club is Newcastle. That's the one that might not be mid-table at the end of the season, which has me wondering why I don't have any Newcastle players in my lineup. Kieran Trippier is a popular one, but what do Callum Wilson, St. Maximin, and Kieran Trippier all have in common? They'll all be hurt by September. At least that's my punchline to that joke. Now, does that make him a bad choice for game week 1, especially if, as I've been saying, you plan to wild card early? Maybe not. But I don't have them in my plans. Trippier, 5.0 defender is not really in my plans, although I have been looking at Matty Cash, but maybe I should be thinking Kieran Trippier instead. And if I have that price point wrong again, I wish I had it in front of me, but whatever. Preparation is so important to our podcast all the time. St. Maximin, no thank you. Not at this point. He'll have 4 great matches and then 34 matches where he's not great or hurt. Callum Wilson, it'll be a little bit different. He'll have 12 good matches and then 26 where there's nothing or he's hurt. And that's just the way that it goes. And those numbers are only going to be off by plus or minus 2 guaranteed by the end of the season. You kind of know these things sometimes. I don't know. There's just nothing there that I'm interested in, although it feels crazy because I think Newcastle will be minimum 7th and maybe higher by the end of the season. Should I be looking at a guy like Bruno G? Maybe his price point just doesn't fit into what I'm trying to do, and I'm not interested in leaving my 8-pound midfielders, or like Foden / Mahrez, or the other one is Jared Bowen. I'm much more interested in those guys than going down to a 6-pound Bruno G. Sorry. And Salah and Son, they're locked in right now for game week 1. So, I don't know. It's just tough to get to Newcastle at this point. Will there be a guy who makes himself essential? Possibly. Same thing could happen with any Palace players. I don't think Palace is going to be bad. There's guys that intrigue me. Zaha and Eze are always going to intrigue me. I'm sure there's a 4.5 defender who at some point is going to have 3 matches in a row of clean sheet points, and I'm going to be intrigued. And I might even make the move to one of them, but by then the streak for clean sheets will be over and it'll have been worthless. That just seems to happen to me at least twice a year with Crystal Palace players. That's fine. I'm avoiding it to start game week 1. Listen, the things that I've been saying to dog Arsenal assets for game week 1 away on a Friday night, I think the same thing applies to Crystal Palace. I just never feel great. I never like having to depend on a player who's playing on a Friday or a Monday night to have a good fantasy week. If I'm depending on a Friday or Monday night player, it almost never goes well for me. And so even though Palace is at home, the same thing applies to their assets, I think. And that's why I don't have any of them either. I'm going to keep working my way through the table. Love it or hate it. I'd love to hear what you think about the advice I'm given. Feel free to reach out. And, of course, join our FPL America Podcast League on the FPL app.